Hello, my name is Frank Christensen and I'm the coordinator of officials for IFAF Europe. In today's training tape, we're dealing with the very difficult topic of personal foul roughing the passer. In Rule 919, there are several different categories, and we'll go through every one of them and look at examples of when is it a foul and when is it not enough for a foul. But before we get there, let's have a look just to see what the rulebook and the MOFO have to say on this topic. In the rulebook, we start with the definition in 227.5 of the forward passer. The forward passer is the player who throws a forward pass. He is a forward passer from the time he releases the ball until the pass is complete, incomplete, or intercepted, or until he moves to participate in the play. In 919 deals with roughing the passer. A. No defensive player shall unnecessarily rough a forward passer when it is obvious the ball has been thrown. Illegal actions include but are not limited to 3. Forcible contact that is avoidable after it is obvious the ball has left the forward passer's hand. The exception is a defensive player who's blocked by a teammate player with a force so that he has no opportunity to avoid contact with the forward passer. 4. Forcibly driving the passer to the ground and landing on him with action that punishes the player. B. When an offensive player is in a passing posture with one or both feet on the ground, no defensive player rushing unabated shall hit him forcibly at the knee area or below. The defensive player also may not initiate a roll or lunge and forcibly hit this opponent in the knee area or below. Exceptions. 1. It is not a foul if the offensive player is a ball carrier or a simulated ball carrier not in a passing posture, either inside or outside the tackle box. 2. It is not a foul if the defender grabs or wraps this opponent in an attempt to make a conventional tackle without making forcible contact with the head or shoulder. And 3. It is not a foul if the defender is not rushing unabated or is blocked or fouled into this opponent. In the MOFO, we go to 336, dealing with roughing the passer. A. If the defensive player's initial contact on the passer is at his head, it is always a foul, unless the passer ducks into it or the contact is slight. However, it is only targeting if the contact goes well beyond making a legal tackle or attempt to block or deflect the pass. B. Contact at the knee area or below on an offensive player in a passing posture is enforced according to Rule 919B, which we just covered above. Slight contact should be disregarded. C. It is a foul if a defender in front of the passer takes 2 steps before contacting the passer after the ball has been thrown or released. A defender behind the passer is given a little more leeway. And finally, D. Defensive players who make a legitimate attempt to avoid or reduce contact are given the benefit of the doubt. And E. When in doubt, it is roughing the passer if the defender's intent is to punish. And that was the book. Now let's have a look at some real live examples in the game film. In this training tape, we're going to go through the different categories of roughing the passer, and we'll start with 919A1, which really is a roughing the passer that also could be targeting. So obviously we're looking at the quarterback here, and the call should be made by the referee / center judge. And here we've got a high hit, and it certainly looks like it could be targeting. It's not completely clear from this angle, but right there this certainly looks like 914, and right there it certainly looks like 913. So we could end up with a roughing the passer with targeting in this one. The next two plays deal with 919A2, forcible contact to the head and neck area that does not meet the requirements of a targeting foul. And this first one is actually legal simply because we don't have a pass. But in any case, this would not fall under the targeting category. It is contact above the neck, so it is high contact, but simply because there is no pass, the quarterback, she never gets the pass off, then at least in this case, there is no foul for roughing the passer. Same category here, but this time we have a pass and we actually also have a foul. So you'll notice that the quarterback gets hit here, and that is a high hit, but it does not. So it's big enough for roughing the passer, but it would not be big enough for a targeting foul. But certainly a high hit above the head neck area that does not meet the requirements of a targeting. We're now moving on to the most common type of roughing the passer. It's 919A3, forcible contact that is avoidable after it's obvious the ball has left. And we'll start out with a couple of legal plays. So the defensive end is going to come around and then he's going to hit. Now if you'll notice, the defender wraps up, and at the time of the ball is thrown, he really is committed to making the hit, but he's also wrapping up, which is typically an indication that we want to give the defender a little bit more leeway, where if he's wrapping up, then he's trying to make a tackle on the runner who just happens to have thrown the ball already. So here it's a legal play. Before we move on to the fouls, here's another example of a legal hit where it's just not far away enough. I mean, here the ball is gone and there's probably maybe one step, but really the defender is committed to making this hit, and it's not too high, it's not too late. He doesn't wrap up, but he's still close enough that this is okay and not a late hit or personal foul roughing the passer, which we'll go on to have a look at in the next place. The next few plays will have roughing the passer either called or it should have been called. And this one is a good illustration that it doesn't have to be the quarterback, the player who gets the initial snap or who is traditionally the quarterback for a roughing the pass. It could be anybody who throws a forward pass. So in this case, A15 can certainly be roughed, which is the case here. I mean, the first guy goes for the ball, goes by him. The second guy knows the ball is gone and just goes up and completely unnecessarily pushes him. This certainly rises to the level of a forcible contact that is avoidable after it is obvious the ball is gone. So this either was called or should have been called, and we'll get a pretty good angle from the sideline also. From the sideline, you get a better feel for how far away the defender was and how far he had to travel. So here goes the ball, and the defender is at least 3 yards away now. He sees the ball is gone, and then he just makes, it's not a big push, but it's totally unnecessary, and it either has to be very forcible or it has to be very late. Here I think the lateness of it just makes it a stupid act by this defender and should be called. On this play, we're looking at the defensive end coming around, and you'll notice that right there he's got his hands up. He takes his so he's trying to block the pass, so he knows the ball is being thrown. Takes his hands down, and then he just gives the quarterback a shove, and that's really avoidable contact. Physical contact that is avoidable clearly after the pass is thrown. So even though this is not the biggest hit ever, it is so avoidable and so late, and just by the way the defender moves his arms, it's very clearly that he knows the ball is gone, so he doesn't need to push the quarterback. And it's one of those where if you don't call it, then the next play, it's going to be just a little bit later, a little bit harder, and then you get into a gray area that's difficult to handle. So this would be a good one to kind of draw a line in the sand and say, this is too much, too late. The next category is forcibly driving the passer to the ground and landing on him, which in a punishing way, and we're going to look at a couple of examples that don't really rise to the level of a foul. So here we've got the ball is gone, and then the defender lands on the quarterback, but as they land on the ground, well, first of all, it's really one act all the way, and they kind of land next to each other. So even though there is potential for roughing the passer here, I just don't think that this is enough. This is not what we're looking for. We would want something that is more landing on him with force, where this is just kind of landing next to each other, and for this to be a foul, I'd want the act to be more avoidable, or almost a second act after the ball is gone. So this is not it. Same category, but still legal, even though on this one, as we'll see, the defender actually lands more on top of the quarterback here. But first of all, the hit itself is not really late. He does a wrap up, and again, this is still a continuation of the tackle. He just happens to land on the quarterback. We'd want him more in a type of situation where he now picks up the quarterback and slams him in a wrestling type move. Here it's just a continuation of the tackle. So again, this is not what we want for this type of foul. The last two plays deal with the last category, which is 919B, dealing with the low hits on quarterbacks in a passing posture. And here the quarterback is hit fairly low, but if you notice, the offensive tackle actually turns the defender and pushes him into the contact. And when that's the case, the defender is not responsible for what happens. Obviously, if he can stop, then the onus goes back to him. But here, this is not an unimpeded path to the quarterback, so the defender is not responsible for this low hit, and therefore there is no roughing the passer here. This last play of the video or the training tape is very interesting, because it certainly looks like the defender goes low, and well, he does go low, but it looks like he does it on his own, and he certainly hits the quarterback low in what otherwise would be a roughing the passer for going low on a quarterback in a passing posture. But if we look closely right there, we'll notice that the defender actually is getting tripped by the guard. So again, he is not responsible for going low simply because he gets tripped by this offensive line. And who should see this tripping? That is a very, very tough call. If we have in a crew of 8, the center judge would be over there on that side and would be looking in that area. The umpire would have a tough time seeing this since it happens in the offensive backfield. The referee would be focused on the quarterback, probably also a little bit on the running back and what he's doing, and it is very, very difficult to to pick up. But nonetheless, once the defender gets tripped here, he is no longer responsible for this low hit. So it actually is an incorrect call for roughing the passer. And that was the training tape with the different categories of roughing the passer. I hope it made sense, and I hope you found something you can use on the field.